A prominent Chicago Bears insider just leaked the Bears' plans for coach Matt Eberflus. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy here with Chicago Bears React, bringing you all of the Chicago Bears news you've craved, both during the season and in the off season. We're excited to dive into today's video because I know everybody is eager to know what is going on at head coach, what is going on at the GM position, what is going on at quarterback, what is going to be the outcome of this offseason that's going to have massive implications for likely the next decade. And for today's video, we're going to look at some cryptic but also not so cryptic tweets from prominent Bears insider Jeff Hughes. Now, for those of you who don't know Jeff Hughes, Jeff runs the Bears blog and is a very active participant on Bears Twitter. But what makes Jeff an especially notable figure is that we don't know who he's connected to at Hallis Hall, but it has been well reported and documented that Jeff has the ear of someone very close to the inner circle, if not to George McCaskey himself. And so whenever Jeff says something, usually this isn't just coming from a random beat reporter. This isn't coming from someone like myself. This is coming from somebody who actually has the ear of people inside the building at the top level. And just last night, Jeff set Bears Twitter on fire when he tweeted, "It very much sounds like Flus is safe, but the Bears will be replacing their offensive staff, and there will be no commitment to Fields. The team will evaluate the quarterbacks at the combine and make decisions then. Taking quarterback at 1 is not off the table." Now, we could stop there, but I want to keep going because there were a number of tweets he shared, and I think they're all relevant. The next one that came out was him responding to a fan who had questions on why would we keep Matt Eberflus. And he responded, "Ryan Poles adores Matt Eberflus. Fans need to understand this. Flus has no bigger fan in the building." Now, this does lead me to a couple of questions before we continue on some of the next couple of tweets. I think it's worth mentioning here, just because he recognizes this fact that Ryan Poles is a massive fan of Matt Eberflus doesn't necessarily mean this is a done deal. As was mentioned in a previous video, Kevin Warren ultimately is going to have a big say here, and it doesn't really matter if Ryan Poles is a big fan unless Ryan Poles has won over Kevin Warren, which wouldn't be surprising. I think anybody who's looked at the job Ryan Poles has done would say this roster has seen such a tremendous overhaul in talent in such a short time, with also just such a stockpile of assets to continue to build. It's hard as a Bears fan not to look at what Ryan Poles is doing and not come to the conclusion this is somebody we should trust. And I think the implication here is that if Ryan Poles has this much sway, it has to be because he has earned Kevin Warren's trust. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Kevin Warren isn't planning something, and I still believe Kevin Warren is planning to make some changes, but we will see what those changes will end up being. Continuing on, and this is where I think things get probably the most interesting to me. Update. I do believe Fields will be on this roster in 2024 and will be competing this summer with a rookie quarterback. Now, what does that remind you of? If you are paying attention to kind of how all of these threads weave together, one thing you might remember is that Ryan Poles comes from Kansas City. What did Kansas City do when they brought in Patrick Mahomes? They sat him for a year. They brought in a rookie quarterback and in Patrick Mahomes, but they let Alex Smith continue to lead a team that was already ascending. That team was a playoff team. And Alex Smith was, at that point in his career, a superior quarterback to what we've seen out of Justin Fields. Alex Smith was an MVP candidate. Alex Smith was throwing for 4,000 yards a season. I don't want to necessarily compare this as if it's apples to apples, but the situation itself is very intriguing. And so if you're looking at what Jeff is saying here, if this is true and this is a route that they're going to go, it would speak to Ryan Poles going back to his roots and saying, I saw this work in Kansas City, and I think this can work here. Here's where I have concerns. Anytime you are emulating something that has worked previously, it worries me, because there are a number of factors surrounding these situations that cannot possibly be replicated. First and foremost, I do not trust the offensive brain trust in Chicago as currently constructed to do for a Caleb Williams or a Drake May what the Kansas City offensive brain trust did for Patrick Mahomes. That's a very different situation. We can all criticize Matt Nagy, who I believe was quarterback coach at the time, for Patrick Mahomes. Matt Nagy, by all accounts, seems to be a decent leader and a decent guy. He just wasn't a good play caller. And there were other deficiencies as well in communications and things like that. But just because he sucks at play calling, and we've seen that continue this year for the Chiefs, if we're being honest, doesn't mean he wasn't a important figure to have around Patrick Mahomes. They had Eric Bieniemy there. They had Kafka. They had, and then of course they had who's the big guy, Andy Reid, arguably the greatest quarterback developer out there. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback-friendly coach. I'm just saying when you look at his track record of developing quarterbacks, it's hard to argue that he doesn't get the most out of whoever he has in developing their talent. And I think it would be naive to assume just because it worked in Kansas City means it'll work here. And so my hope is Kevin Warren is going to intercede on that front. I think that's a recipe for disaster. I also think something else could be going on here, which is, let's keep in mind, Jeff has the ear of people in House Hall, but that also means they might use him from time to time. And if I were somebody in the front office, whether it be Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, whoever is trying to get information out there, I would be getting information out there. You know what? We don't know that we want to trade Fields. We think we might keep him. We think he might be our starter for years to come. We think Justin Fields, at the very least, should have a chance to compete with whoever we bring in. Yeah, Caleb is this generational talent, but ultimately, we think Fields could be too, and we just want both of them. I think that could just be a smokescreen, an opportunity to try to prop up Fields as a more valuable asset, as a more scarce asset. And it may be just a ploy by the front office to try to drum up more interest and ultimately get more capital in return for Justin Fields. And then one last tweet wanted to share. This is coming from Dan Wiederer, who, is he Sun-Times? I believe Chicago Tribune. Apologies, Dan. Meetings and deliberations will continue this morning at Hallis Hall as the Bears plot their course for 2024 and beyond. I would guess that today is the day that clarity starts to fully emerge in Lake Forest. Of course, this is speculation, but this is somebody who's covered the Bears for a long time and ultimately knows how the Bears operate. I would expect that there will be an announcement today. I would expect, based on everything I'm seeing, that this means Matt Eberflus is staying. And so the real question is, are they going to announce changes today in the offensive staff? What will that look like? Who are they bringing in? Ultimately, I don't know that I feel comfortable as a Bears fan with the idea of bringing in another rookie play caller. I think the Bears need a more veteran play caller coming in and ultimately guiding this offense. And so, who that is, it's tough to know. There's some interesting options out there, whether you're talking about Kellen Moore, who right now seemingly probably doesn't have a job. Ultimately, he hasn't necessarily been let go from the Chargers, but there's going to be a new head coach in there, and a new head coach will probably want to implement their own system. That offense was kind of suspect this year, and you could quibble with the idea of whether or not Kellen Moore is an upgrade over Luke Getsy. We'll see. You could also look at, is someone like Arthur Smith going to be available as an OC? What's he going to do? He was just let go as the head coach of the Falcons. He's somebody who has had an up and down road as the Falcons play caller, but ultimately he has an extensive history calling plays, both in Tennessee and then now in Atlanta. And he's someone who has shown success as an offensive play caller, leading a team in Tennessee at the very least. To be a quite a formidable and competitive offense. And so we'll see. I'm excited to know. I'd be curious to know, for all of you fans out there, who do you want to see come in as the offensive play caller? Is it somebody that the Bears already have on staff? Is it somebody that is already experienced at calling plays? Is there somebody that you think deserves a shot that hasn't gotten the chance to call plays yet? Is it Eric Bieniemy? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. And as always, bear down.